I'm going to share with you a 35-minute intro to help you understand the magic of Bioharvest Sciences as a company. And then I'm going to try and leave as much time for Q&A because I know there's a ton of questions that people have as a result of all the announcements we've been making and all the excitement around the company. There's no better place I want to be in the world than right here, right now, leading this company. We are the global leaders in plant cell biology. At our core, we are a biotech company. And as a result of the capabilities that we built over the last 10 years with our scientists, we have the capability to unlock the secrets of cellular plant biology like no other company. And in doing this, we're able to bring to the marketplace the next generation of science-based therapeutics. We have an amazingly strong IP portfolio. And when you think about our platform technology that we have to bring the power of the plant to the people, it allows us to address a current market opportunity of more than $500 billion. What problem are we solving? The human body, we need critical primary and secondary metabolites to function effectively. What does this mean? A primary metabolite is a protein. A secondary metabolite is a polyphenol, an antioxidant, or a cannabinoid. And to optimize the functioning of our body, we need these critical metabolites. But today, in the world that we're living in, we're challenged. Mother Nature, which is the source of what we do, ultimately is only able to produce this in an inconsistent way because it's based on many parameters related to lights, related to rainfall, and many other parameters where we as human beings, we need these active ingredients in a consistent way. And then man comes along and starts to try and grow the plants with these active ingredients and starts to be more efficient and smart and starts to put fertilizer and pesticide. And all of a sudden, these active ingredients from the plants are not clean anymore. And at the same time, cost goes up and we start to really harm the environment, which is so important a value to our company. So what we do at Bioharvest is we have a very unique platform technology that we call today bioplant cell elicitation technology. And it's the only industrial scale platform that brings plant-based therapeutic solutions with these critical, essential active ingredients in a way that maintains the original natural compound structure of how that active ingredient is found in the plant. So we are non-GMO. And we also do this in a way which is full spectrum. And everybody, I think, understands in the world today that to optimize the overall health and wellness experience, you need to have the full spectrum of polyphenols from a red grape or the full spectrum of cannabinoids from a cannabis plant. And we do all of this without growing the plant. We only use the plant once as we grow our cells. And ultimately, what we are able to deliver are unique, essential active ingredients that have fingerprint consistency, which is what we need. The human body needs that fingerprint consistency. Aseptic cleanliness. Our receptors, they understand clean, aseptic, clean active ingredients versus active ingredients that are coming from heavy fertilizers and pesticides and solvents. We need to make sure we've got the full spectrum composition. We, with our platform technology, as we scale it, we've learned how to do this at a cost structure, which is a significant advantage versus the industry. And importantly, sustainability is at the core of what we do. And we do this in a way that has best-in-class sustainability credentials. The $500 billion addressable market is broken down in this way. Today, we operate with our platform technology in the nutraceutical market. That's a $275 billion market. We operate now as well in the cannabinoid market as we bring a unique grade of cannabis to the marketplace that the marketplace has never seen before. It's a $25 billion market. And the other four verticals that I have here, psychedelics, botanical drugs, protein growth factors, and TCM, standing for traditional Chinese medicine. These are four of the other verticals that we are looking very seriously at choosing one of them as a third pillar for us to focus on in 2022 from an R&D perspective. And the vision is to build, aspiration is to build a multi-billion-dollar platform technology company that's bringing the power of the plant to the people, with multiple verticals underneath it. And every 12 to 24 months, we would add an additional vertical, building on our knowledge on how we unlock the secrets of cellular plant biology and disrupt each of these respective other verticals and bring significant value to consumers that are currently have unmet needs in these verticals. How do we do this? It's very, very simple. Our bioplant cell elicitation platform technology, we start with the plant. We use the plant once. We isolate the key cells with the key active ingredients. We also store these cells in cell banks. So if we ever need to go back to the actual original cells, we can. And that maintains the fingerprint consistency. We grow, in the case of our core product today, Vinia, which is the validation of our technology, we grow in 21 days, and we do what nature does in 21 days. It takes nature 2 years. And we grow in these bioreactors our red grape cells. These red grape cells contain the critical active ingredients, which really are the basis of the French paradox. The French paradox talks about the fact that the French population has a very fatty diet, lots of lipids, lots of pâté, lots of fats, butters, but they have very good cardiovascular health. When they went to understand the detail, the scientists realized it was from moderate consumption of red wine, 2 to 3 glasses of red wine a day. When they went deeper and they understood it was from a matrix of polyphenols, including a core polyphenol called piceid resveratrol, which is from the skin of the red grape, plus a matrix of other polyphenols, catechin, quercetin, anthocyanins, and tannins, all working together in a full spectrum effect. We grow these cells with these critical active ingredients. When the cell reaches a certain body mass, we harvest it. We're left with wet cells that we then dry into an amazing soluble, i.e. very easy for the actual active ingredients to dissolve in our body, bioavailable, i.e. it's very quick for these active ingredients to start to work in our blood plasma with our cells. And as a result, we have very, very high efficacy. And that's the process. It's pretty simple. Vinia today has been extremely successful. We have done multiple clinical trials, double-blind placebo, published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Vinia, at its core, increases blood flow. We increase the flow-mediated dilation of the artery, which allows for significantly more blood flow and more oxygen and nutrients to go to the body tissues and organs. And what we have a very unique advantage. We're the only supplement in the world, which has piceid resveratrol from the skin of the red grape. This is my bottle of Vinia. And in each capsule of Vinia, we have the same amount of piceid resveratrol as 1 bottle of red wine. No sugar, no calories, no alcohol. These are some of the structure function claims that we claim in the US based on FDA guidelines because of the clinical trials and the science that supports our unique product proposition. We've had a phenomenal 15 months since we launched Vinia back in November 2020. Our Israel business has performed exceptionally well, and I'll talk about the results in a second from a dollars perspective. In the US, we have had an amazing pilot. You can see the ratings, 4.8 out of 5. There's very few dietary supplements that have this level of quality of ratings. And I really encourage you all, go to vineyard.com, click on the reviews, and read the reviews yourself. And you will really understand how we're fundamentally changing people's lives and improving their overall health and wellness, which some of you may know I describe as our focus on increasing human utility value. Vineyard is changing people's lives because of the benefits that it brings them. And the best way, you can read a few here, you can read faster than I can talk, but go to vineyard.com, click on reviews, and scroll and read, and you'll see the level of engagement, the intimacy that people have between the brand and themselves because of how it's positively changing their lives. And that's super cool. As a result of our performance last year, we delivered overall 2.4 million of sales orders, 2.1 million of revenue, and it was a phenomenal performance. Every quarter growing significantly, and our metrics in the US are extremely positive, with literally 83% of our business being on subscription, which is amazing because you're getting recurring revenue. We have more than 70% of people on more than 3-month recurring packages. So it's really, really healthy metrics. And we're super excited to scale our Vineyard business as we start to bring online our new 20-ton production facility that we just recently completed the building, and we have the GMP and ISO certifications from the Israeli Ministry of Health. So 2022 is going to be super exciting as we start to scale this business. In our pipeline, we have olive cells, which is all the benefits of the Mediterranean diet without the calories. This supports the maintenance of LDL cholesterol, and pomegranate cells, which is all about helping to reduce inflammation. Now let's talk about our second vertical. So first vertical is our polyphenol antioxidant vertical, where Vineyard, our olive cells and pomegranate cells sits. The second vertical we focused on, and we did something that was so bold and audacious 3 years ago. And many of you may know that, cannabinoids were invented here in Israel by the professors in the 1970s. So there's a lot of intellectual knowledge here in the Israeli ecosystem. And when people understood we were trying to use our platform technology to be able to grow cannabis cells, many of them said, this is impossible. It's never been done before. It's absolutely impossible. Well, when you tell 5 PhD female biologists that something's not going to happen, specifically Israelis, it's just a matter of time until it happens. And again, the same process. We start with the plant once, we isolate the key cells. In the case of cannabis, we actually do something which is a game changer that no other company in the world can do, is we're actually growing the trichomes. Each cell we grow as the cell matures, the actual cell produces a trichome. The trichome is the mini factory that produces the cannabinoids, the flavonoids, and the terpenes. And we actually are able to produce 13 to 15 cycles per year versus much lower level of cycles for other companies. And we're in perpetual flowering. Here you see the plant being grown with the trichomes here. And here, through our bioplant cell elicitation process, we're growing the trichomes in our bioreactors. Pictures tell 1,000 words. Here we're zooming in. On the left-hand side, you see the actual trichomes themselves. It's a beautiful picture. These are the mini factories producing the cannabinoids. And here we're going and we're starting to zoom into our biomass. And as we zoom in, you start to see the trichomes. And now I'm going in a little bit closer, and you start to see this rich density of trichomes that we're growing. And voila, I'm now zooming in at the same level, and you can see the density of trichomes, of Bioharvest trichomes, that we're growing in a very unique proprietary way, is between 100 to 200 times more dense than the actual trichomes that you will get on a per millimeter squared of actual space. We are the only company in the world, through our knowledge and capabilities, and I think just determination, that's been able to grow trichomes in liquid media, i.e. in bioreactors. It is a historical feat of biology, of sheer determination, and of biotech that really was a major milestone for us as a company when we announced this last year. And we are now in the final stages of our commercialization process. And we announced earlier today that, we've built a robust, solid IP strategy. And part of our IP strategy was patenting the process. And now we're growing in industrial-sized bioreactors, which was a 700% jump versus where we are before. This just builds tremendous. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. Keep them coming. But this just builds just tremendous efficiency for us to be able to bring the cogs down and to provide best-in-class cannabis with fingerprint consistency, cleanliness, aseptic cleanliness. And I'm telling you now, the body's receptors knows clean cannabis from non-clean cannabis, and doing it in a way where we have very unique environmental sustainability credentials, which is so important. We have grown kilograms. We're growing kilograms. And I can tell you now, to see this, when you walk into the room and you're seeing this biomass growing in the bioreactors, it gets my adrenaline pumping every time I'm going into actually the rooms that we're growing this with our bioreactors. It's super exciting. And maybe, Justin, we should spend some time just showing the video for some of the people that may not have seen the video. So over to you, and I can have a breather. Thank you. I just want to say that in that video, every bit of footage is real. There's no computer graphics. There's no BS in that area. Everything you're seeing is real. It's just obviously some of the cameras are using pretty unique lenses to get, to get close enough to get this kind of resolution. But every single thing you see here is 1,000% real. It's super, super exciting. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I talked about our trichome density, but just from our cell elicitation process, we're able to actually increase the pi-seed resveratrol by more than 100 times. So just showing you the power of the technology. Justin, I'm just telling you, I'm loving these icons, these emoticons. It's really, thank you, everybody. It's very helpful. Okay. This chart helps you understand the power of our technology platform versus other ways of producing active ingredients. In this case, we've used cannabis, where you have obviously the Bioharvest platform technology versus conventional farming versus biosynthesis, which is growing singular isolates, not full spectrum. Biosynthesis is also GMO, it's genetically modified, versus our platform technology, which is non-GMO. And these are fundamental differences because obviously, full spectrum is so important, which is what you get from our technology. But you can see on the left-hand side, obviously, we produce at a ridiculous efficiency from a land perspective, lower production costs. Our capex, I'll talk about in a second, because this is like the wow factor when you look at how we're able to actually build factories with such a low capex versus the revenue generated from that capex. We have very, very low production cycle times, unique purity, unique consistency. As I said, full spectrum versus biosynthesis, which is singular isolates. And obviously, our sustainability credentials are critical and beat the rest. We are leaders in sustainability, and I really challenge anyone out there to have similar sustainability credentials. And we're going to keep on getting better and better because we're a purpose-driven company. And that's just a maniacal focus and a critical lens that we make this management decisions through. And then obviously patentability is huge. We've done a lot of work in our IP strategy. And again, non-GMO versus biosynthesis being genetically modified. This is the money chart. You know, we just built a veneer plant. We will spend, depending on currency, in a very challenging environment, $3 to $4 million on capex. We utilize roughly 1,200 square meters of land. Don't ask me to translate that into square feet, just put it into Google. This will produce 20 metric tons. That's 20,000 kilos of active ingredient, which from a direct-to-consumer perspective will generate $40 million of revenue. So there's very few technologies that you can spend, less than $5 million in capex, and on an annual basis, at capacity of 20 ton, generate roughly $40 million in revenue, assuming the demand was there. So it's very unique and allows us to also move very, very quickly in building facilities with like a copy-paste approach. I talked a lot about sustainability. The one point I want to make here is no fertilizer, no pesticide, no solvents. It's really important because the body needs clean, aseptic active ingredients. This is one. Two, it's really important because we do use a lot of water, okay? We're growing in bioreactors. But what's so critical, because we use no fertilizer, because we use no pesticides, because there's no heavy metals, all of the water is biodegradable. It's totally recycled back into the system, which is super, super important. And our greenhouse gas level 1 emissions are extremely low, if not none, based on our bioreactors and how they operate. And as we move into the drying process and use other technologies, we will be looking to really minimize those with unique technology that we're bringing into the marketplace. From a cannabis perspective, right now, since we've made the announcements over the last, I would say 4 to 6 weeks, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. It's the best way to describe it. There's been obviously a tremendous amount of interest. Just to give you some perspective, that video, I think, Justin, we've had like 300,000 views at least of that video. As a result, there's been a tremendous amount of interest, and let's just say from the ecosystem, okay? Obviously, I can't get more specific at this time. Ultimately, we are looking at multiple strategies, B2B, direct to consumer. We've talked also, and I'll touch on it a little bit later, around our aspirations for North America. But I think the key message I wanted to share with you that obviously as a steward of your investments in this company, my focus is balancing the decisions between two critical areas as I look at the chessboard and the different moves that we can make. Number one is all about growing shareholder value, which obviously is critical to all of you and, of course, to myself. Number two is making sure that with our decisions, we are growing human utility value and driving human utility value. And for many of you that haven't heard me use this term before, what this means is making a fundamental positive change to the overall health and wellness of people. And this is where a full spectrum, clean cannabis product is a game changer. As we deal with the challenges of opioid challenges that are in the US, 68,000 people in 2020 committing suicide from the opioid crisis, dealing with challenges that people are dealing from a pain perspective, fibromyalgia, ALS, and really making sure that we're leveraging the power of our cannabis product to really do what it takes to help solve palliative diseases and to help solve the challenges that people dealing with palliative diseases are having. And when you actually look at today and you look at the amount of substitution that people are doing, yes, you have the synthesized pharma drugs, big pharma drugs for many of these conditions. But ultimately, they're not delivering on the needs of consumers that are suffering a great deal with these palliative challenges. And they are starting to use cannabis in a major way as either in addition to or as a substitute to deal with the different conditions that they have. And for me, that's where I think we can make a huge difference as we look at bringing very unique cannabis proposition to these consumers. And frankly, that's what gets me up every single day and drives us, because it's got ability to make a fundamental change to people. And that's why we're a purpose-driven company. One thing I should share with you, an interesting fact is, we talk about we grow trichomes. We don't grow the plant, we grow the cells, and then our cells produce trichomes. And we actually are producing 93% trichome. The other 7% is the components of the cell that are left. So this just shows you the power of the technology in the cannabis space. I'm really lucky. I have an amazing team around me, phenomenal people, from our scientists to the operations team to the finance team. I'm also really proud to say that more than 50% of our workforce is above the age of 50. And that's really, really important. I'm at 48, okay? But, it's amazing when you look at the experience of people. And when you're dealing with biotech companies, experience is what matters, whether it's experience on the biological scientific side and all the way through to the operational side and the financial side. So you're dealing with people with amazing careers already that are very focused and are driven today, not necessarily just on financial reasons, but on purpose, on making a difference out there to the world. We also have an amazing advisory team with serious experts in each of the different areas. From Eitan Popper, who was president of MedRelief, which was sold for $3 billion a few years ago. Really a giant in the cannabis world that's really partnering with me every single day as we look at making those chessboard moves in the right way. To Stephen Lurer, who's enormous experience in biotech, Dr. Rona Applebaum in regulatory affairs, Scott McEwen helping me on the marketing side, Roberto Chait, a real power in international law, and then obviously bringing Colonel Chris Hadfield on board a few months ago has just ignited so much passion in all of us just on understanding the power of our technology here on Earth, but also in space, and also what we can do in space to make Earth a better place. And I'll talk more about that in a second. And then we have a really, really strong, disciplined medical advisory board with Dr. Dennis Goodman, best-in-class professor in cardiology at NYU, and Dr. David Brady, who really brings the whole integrative medicine approach to us. We have built I like to say we've built capabilities across the end-to-end side, across multiple verticals. We've built the brain, and we've built the brain over 10 years. And that's what it's taken with all the knowledge learning from an R&D, from a research perspective. And we've built the commercial machine very quickly in the last 2 years, which has obviously been a major focus of mine with my experience. 18 years as a senior executive at the Coca-Cola company, and then another 5-6 years when I built together with two partners, a startup in the big data, IoT, and software world. And we were very lucky to do a major exit to Anheuser-Busch InBev. From a brain perspective, we have, as I said, serious IP, serious patents, which are a very, very important part of a biotech company's ecosystem, internal ecosystem. From a manufacturing perspective, we have our 20+ ton facility that I touched on earlier, which we're now bringing up for VINIA. We will take our 2-ton facility that produces VINIA today, which is about 50 meters away from our office here. That will be converted into our cannabis facility. And then obviously we will utilize our current cannabis R&D area for that third vertical. And so we're now building a very nice ecosystem and how we can continue to add more verticals for the company. Okay. I want to just talk here around, capabilities we've built on regulation. We've talked a lot about the sales side, but I want to touch on the B2B side. B2B is also a very important part of our strategy. We're very clear on the swim lanes. There are swim lanes for D2C. There are what I call swim lanes for B2B. And with our partner, Batory Foods, Batory Foods is the #1 food ingredients only provider and distributor into the USA. They're $1 billion company, amazing capabilities, and they have the ability to open the doors in any giant out there from an overall partnership perspective. Right now, I'm in the process of having multiple discussions with giants of industry that see the power, not just of VINIA, but see the power of our platform technology. And that's what's super exciting when I can sit with CEOs and chief technology officers or head of R&Ds of major North American and global companies and talk to them about the power of our technology. And they are very able to quickly understand the ability of our technology and our end product to be a major catalyst of driving innovation for them, of driving disruption for them, and of driving premiumization, i.e. higher margins for them. So we're now in the process, it's a kind of long pipeline, but we are in the process of talking to multiple companies across different key industries. We're very focused. It's not too many companies. We're very focused. And I will continue to update our shareholder partners as these discussions start to reach a stage where it becomes more material to update our shareholder partners. But watch out for that spot. Space. If we're leaders, if we're the plant biotech leaders on Earth, we have to make sure we're the plant biotech leaders in the rest of the solar system. And this for us is a big opportunity. It's very prioritized and focused, and there are 3 key opportunities. The first 2 are important, but the third is actually critical. The first one is around, there will be, with the space race and the entrepreneurs from Branson to Bezos to Elon Musk, plus with the NASA and with all the other space programs going on right now, there will be literally settlements in space in the next 10 years. But these people need to live. They need to eat. There's only so much canned tuna that you can take in a space rocket up to a space station. So our technology, we're able to produce premium proteins. We believe we're able to do it with all the amino acids, and this is one potential opportunity. The second area, and many of you may not know this, is that radiation is a very, very challenging on the body, and the key issue is around the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. And as many of you may know from VINIA, one of the critical benefits that our clinical trials have demonstrated is VINIA's ability to reduce oxidation of LDL cholesterol. And that's very, very important. And one of the oxidation of LDL cholesterol is one of the most closely monitored elements that NASA is monitoring all the time on the astronauts on the International Space Station. And then the third area is pretty interesting as well, because, and this is where we also see a potential breakthrough to bring back to Earth. And what this is that in space, in the International Space Station, there's microgravity. And we know that cells grow and respond differently and elicit different outcomes in a microgravity environment. So what is the dream? And obviously we need to go and test and validate this, and this will be work we'll do in the next 12 to 18 months. But can you imagine the dream where we took, say, a medicinal cannabis strain and we grew it in space, and all of a sudden the minor cannabinoids became major cannabinoids? What kind of human utility value, when we brought that back to Earth, it could have? And what's happening is in the next 5 years, you will have commercial space stations, which will just be for companies like us to grow their products in a microgravity environment and then bring it back to Earth to help people. So this is something that we're focused on. Obviously from a prioritization perspective, it's important, but it's something that we will take our time on. But it's something very important that we provide thought leadership in on a continuous way. I think lastly, I just want to share with you, right now, when you look at our valuation, I think there is, this is a good time to come into the company. You look at some of our peers, Zimogen, Ginkgo, other platform technology companies that are in the biotech space, valued at north of $1 billion. Ginkgo's $7.2 billion. And then you start to see where we are right now, valued at roughly $120 million. So obviously our aspiration is to build a multi-billion-dollar company. The time is right now as we really bring on board investor partners to grow with us in this unique journey that we are driving every single day to drive shareholder value, but importantly, to drive human utility value, because ultimately we're a purpose-driven company. I want to comment a little bit just on the couple of releases that we've had over the last week. There may be some questions around this. We basically were very clear around our desire to put roots on the ground in Canada. Canada is obviously an important market. It's on a federal level. It's easy to operate. On the regulation side, Health Canada is very broad in their thinking on technologies and applying technologies in the cannabis space. It's good fertile territory for us. And we've been very clear right now, just given the marketplace, it's a very good time to come in and to be able to find the right kind of plug and play solution for us and take over some licensed producer facilities at a very cost-effective way, just given the state of the market, and bring a disruptive and differentiated cannabis proposition to the marketplace. And then today, we announced, and I said this earlier on an interview, around the fact that, there are very few small cap companies on the CSE and just generally that are producing revenue. We're producing revenue, and that revenue is starting to scale quickly. And there are very few companies that are providing actual guidance around revenue targets. And I think, people who have been part of our journey have understood our focus to have a very clear strategy, but then knowing how to execute the strategy into results. So we've provided revenue guidance, significant growth versus last year, 5 to 7 million. That's super exciting. We also provided some level of estimation around, when we start to hit critical metrics like break even from a cash flow perspective. And, this now we have a very clear plan to execute. It's all about scaling our vineyard business in the US. And I can't tell you how excited I am with, firstly, the performance so far, and secondly, the opportunities that we have to scale this business across multiple channels, multiple customers, multiple product lines as well. It's not just what you see today as a dietary supplement. There are so many different areas we can take the brand, and because we're learning so much from the consumer feedback we're giving. Consumer feedback is a gift, and we're learning on some really unique ways to create even more value. And then obviously, cannabis is critical. We've got to get the first product out this year, and we're on track in doing that. And then putting in place the infrastructure to make 2023 in North America just a game changer from a cannabis perspective. And that links back to the whole discussion around the chessboard that I'm playing with, to have the right strategy, the right partnerships in Canada, the right partnerships in the US. And that's really where I'm spending a significant amount of my time, and it's part of my critical priorities over really the next 3 to 4 months, because we obviously need to move quickly if we want to start to really get 2023 pumping. So I'll stop now. I think I've condensed it. I think I started, Justin, at 13 minutes past, so 39 minutes, not bad for me. But I'll stop now and I'll take questions from the audience, and thanks for all the emoticons.
Yeah, I meant to turn the emoticons off.
Emojis.
I meant to turn those off, so I'm glad you like.
No, I like it, but I don't know what's the one with the skull. Is that good or bad? Tell me. I need to go and ask.
I think it's shock. Speaking about the
it's shock.
space
It's
in the future.
wow. Tell me, guys, is that good or is it a good shock or a bad shock? Let me know. Is it a good shock? No, okay, good. So tell me it's a good
Lots
shock.
of questions. Thank you so much for your patience. We have so many people still online. I've tried to condense the questions. So let's hit the big rock ones first, Ilan. A lot of questions about the onboarding status of the 20-ton facility and obviously then the subsequent transition to the 2-ton. So can you please just shed us some light?
Yeah, no problem. So, what we are doing is a biological technology transfer. This is not like how, when I was at the Coca-Cola company and we, commissioned a new line and you literally press go, put the line on and literally the bottles come out. I'm simplifying a little bit, but when you're doing a biological technology transfer, you've got to take your facility, you've got to make it fully aseptic. It cannot be any micro around, and it's a process. And we're making great progress. We've started to grow cells already, and we're now moving into our scale up of increasing the number of bioreactors. Every now and again, we'll discover something we need to improve on, and I'm confident that literally in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to start actually growing cells that we can then start to bring to the market. But obviously, there's supply chain. It takes time. We've got to grow the cells. We've got to dry them. We've got to put them into encapsulation, and then it needs to get to the consumer. So, we're focused on really unleashing. I kind of call it like, I think about the parting of the Red Sea, like opening the floodgates, looking at around about end of second quarter to really start putting our foot on the pedal and going like crazy and spending serious marketing. And we're going to unleash a marketing plan that's going to leave competition like, whoa, what just happened? Around the quality of the execution, the creative, the channels we focus on. We're going to bring a totally non-traditional approach to a traditional industry. And we've got amazing technology as well to back it all up. I think some of you may have seen we've hired a VP of e-commerce, Jared, super smart guy who's part of the team and taught me everything that I know about e-commerce. And now literally I've brought him on board full time. So that's super exciting. And then what we will do as soon as we start to grow the cells in the 20-ton facility, we will start very quickly converting the 2-ton facility to the requirements of the Israeli Ministry of Health in order to get our licenses for production so we can start producing cannabis.
Okay. I was going to ask this one a little later. A lot of questions. You've mentioned Canada. You spoke to the US. We're now talking Israel. Can you comment on potential approaches for that 2-ton, whether it's going to supply just Israel, how export might work?
Honestly, like up until a week ago, I would have told you that 2-ton facility will just service Israel. It could service more than Israel. What we are, I talked before, like I'm a kid in a candy shop, and it's like, it's a real privilege. And I say this in the sense of it's a dynamic process. We're talking to other companies. We're talking to other partners. There may be opportunities that product will flow into other markets. So I think with the dynamic process and the opportunities we're talking about are exciting. They're going to create a lot of value, shareholder value, as well as human utility value. So, I would say it's most likely going to service Israel, but it could change depending on some of the opportunities that we're pursuing right now.
Good. And we do have a fair amount of commercial inquiries. Could one option in the US be like a licensing approach to with a multi-state operator?
I would say to you in the US, one option could be a partnership model with multi-state operators. Obviously we're very familiar with the multi-state operators. I can't really say much more, but I've said what I have said is I'm not a big fan in licensing. Right? There is so much IP in what we do and know-how. And because of the uniqueness of our system and the ability to build plants for, let's call it 3 to 4 million, maybe in the US, it costs a little bit more because of labor costs, COVID, whatever. But still, you're talking about less than $5 million to build a 20-ton facility. Okay. When you think about it, you know, what it costs in CapEx for a indoor facility. I mean, literally 5 million is a fraction for the 20 tons of output you're going to get compared to what you would have to pay if you're a quality indoor growing operator. And with that kind of approach, you know, we want to control our IP, and I'm much happier going in, building a plant, and actually operating the plant as part of a partnership model with a multi-state operator or somebody else. So that's how we think about it. It's what we have is just too unique. Like I said, I'm not licensing. I've been asked for licensing across so many different countries on Vinia. It's like, no, Vinia will produce here, or will produce in the US. And, you know, the value of what we do is so high, you can air freight it. It doesn't impact your COGS in such a major way. So there's no need for us to go into these kind of licensing approaches. And like what we do is so unique and specific that the learning curve is pretty hard. And we want to obviously control that IP very carefully.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Lead into this one naturally. Looking at both Vinia and cannabis, you've mentioned Canada, you mentioned North America and Israel. How about Asia and Europe for both Vinia and cannabis?
Yeah, look, Europe is really interesting, and I'd say let's talk cannabis first. You know, you have key markets like Germany that are you're starting to see significant changes. You have 80 million people. You have very clear belief systems in Europe, in markets like Germany, and even in France, on the power of botanicals. I think European consumers they're born with understanding the power of the plant. I think in other parts of the world, they're born in understanding, it's synthesized. And so it's like when it's ingrained, you see much higher per capita consumption and an appreciation so much of the value that we bring with consistency, with cleanliness, with environmental sustainability as well. So, Europe is definitely something we're looking at very, very carefully for cannabis and for Vinia as well. And we're going through now the EFTA process for regulatory approval in the EU as well as the UK. We may decide to speed up the process to go and focus more on 4 or 5 key markets, because we don't have to be everywhere. There's the ability to really focus, I think will help us as well. And then for Asia, Vinia has serious potential. I think from a cannabis perspective, there's still a high level of immaturity and will take time. We have the opportunity now in markets like Japan. Significant market, significant opportunity. I was on a call today just talking more around trademarks around Indonesia. You've got 250, 300 million people. Drinking wine is a challenge from a religious perspective, but you can bring all the benefits of one bottle of red wine every day with Vinia, without the sugar, without the calories, without the alcohol. So there are some key strategic markets in Asia. And even in those markets, China, Indonesia, you've got such big populations that even the middle class, upper middle class can afford a proposition like ours. So yeah, those markets are within our broader focus. But for the next 12 months, right, it's, literally we have to be very focused. What 18 years at Coke taught me what to do. One lesson is the importance of being able to focus. And, obviously Israel is a great test ground for us. We're here, so it's great for us to learn in Israel, but then very quickly start to scale in North America, specifically with Vinia in the US. Cannabis is more a US and a Canada play for the next 12 months.
Yeah, thank you. The questions are pouring in. Do you have another 10 minutes, Ilan?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We were 10 minutes late, so no problems. I'll keep
absolutely. This is an interesting follow-up.
The family's already sleeping, Justin.
This is an interesting follow-up from Richard on the facility conversion. Looking forward at like the nutraceuticals and at cannabis, can you grow multiple products in the same facility?
Yeah. So yeah, the facility, the 20-ton facility that we've built that for polyphenol antioxidants. So I can grow, from a regulatory perspective, I can grow red grape cells, I can grow olive cells, I can grow pomegranate cells. I can pretty much grow anything there except cannabis, because cannabis has to be a specific, for all the reasons everybody understands, has to be a very specific facility. So yes, and what's beautiful is that, we really have platform technology. You have other companies out there that say they have platform technology, but it's not really platform, because they got to modify it and do this for this vertical, and they got to do that, and it's $10 million of changes here and $10 million of changes here for different verticals. We have platform technology. It's like literally, it's like the same bioreactors for cannabis to our red grape cells, to our olive cells. It's really the synergy is amazing, and that really helps us drive the scale and the efficiency that we need.
A couple of different questions about the talking scale and the different facilities. Is there a cap on the size of the facility? Was the 20-ton?
No, look, we've set a 20-ton facility, right? And you probably hear me sometimes say 20+ ton. And I say that because I think we can get more than, as we get smarter and smarter on the industrialization process, I think we can get more than 20 tons out of this particular facility that we've invested in now for the polyphenol antioxidants. But yeah, I mean, we've got, based on our aspirations and our plans, we have a model for what like a mega facility looks like, that will, have shared services in some areas, and then can produce 40 tons of vertical A, 40 tons of vertical B, 40 tons of vertical C, all in one facility. But obviously, in a way that we're optimizing shared services, and it's all about, driving efficiencies and driving scale.
Okay. In today's release, you spoke to break even and profitability. What are the financing plans for 2022?
So, we have from what I call the downhill, as we look at, our cash position right now is good, but as we start to kind of lean in the second quarter and really push hard in third quarter and fourth quarter, as the floodgates open, we will need to be raising some additional resources. In addition, I want to focus our energy on executing. I don't want to be focusing my energy on raising funds. We obviously need to raise funds for the infrastructure requirements for cannabis in North America. Depending on what that looks like, we may go to a larger capital raise, and it might be a small raise now and then a larger one, or we'll just do one. But that I'm seeing, Justin, as the last time, as we say, please God, that we'll have to raise, either it's a small and then a big and then a bigger one, or we'll just do it in once this year. But if we do it right, I don't see us having to raise funds again based on the revenue projections that we have for 2022, 2023 and beyond. And as we've said, we're looking at break even, from an overall cash operating perspective. You're on mute.
A medical and science question. We have several of these. How are you working on adding to the FDA health benefits of VINIA and clinical trials?
That's a great question. That's actually one of the reasons why I was late for the call, because I was working on a specific additional clinical trial that we're looking at running, which I cannot go public on right now. But there are consumer feedback, as I learned, from being in the consumer brands business, is just a gift. And they say in the business, if you treat the consumer as king, then cash will come in. Okay, and we've just received such amazing feedback from we're now we're north of 10,000 customers on VINIA between Israel and the US. We have so much feedback from customers, and we're seeing VINIA change people's lives in a number of ways outside of what the claims that we have right now say for the US business. and we're seeing multiple data points in each of those areas. So we've prioritized that, and there are like 2 or 3 very high priority areas we're going after, and we're looking at running clinical trials on. We're also bringing the right resources to the company in the senior leadership role to be able to, focus fully, in a broader, broader focus on clinical trials in the broader medical space. As part of our leadership team is a very important complement to the leadership team, because we have so many focus areas. So I see us this year running at least 1 to 2 clinicals, and they're going to be potential, game changers as far as incremental revenue streams and like use cases for us. But these are all based on feedback that we're getting from consumers, because you've got thousands of consumers and they go, wow, this is amazing, this is doing this for me. And then when I get that from like 20 people, 30 people, I'm like, wow, we have something really transformational here. And then you rationalize it and you go, oh, it makes perfect sense. It's all a derivative of blood flow, because blood flow is such a critical underlying mechanism of the body, right? It's like, our operating system, right? You have to have blood flow. Otherwise, the body doesn't work. And when you increase blood flow, all of a sudden it solves so many other health and wellness challenges that one has. So we've seen a few of these consistently pop up, and we talk to the consumers, we get more feedback from them, which is really awesome and very, humbling. And we're going after a couple of these areas.
Good. I've got 2 forward-looking prediction questions. When do you expect to be able to unveil the new vertical?
I'm hoping to do that sometime in second quarter. Okay. There's just, honestly, there's so much going on, specifically with the cannabis onslaught. And I think, Justin, you see a lot of what's coming, the flow that's coming, or the interest on cannabis. And there's so much, coming at us. And just, I need to just focus in key areas, finalize the route to market and the strategy on cannabis. And then we'll breathe. And then, there is a separate work stream. Dr. Zaki Rakib is chairman of the company and has invested significant resources in the company. He himself, with some additional help, is leading the charge. So it's not a distraction for me. I get involved when I need to get involved. And then we will take a recommendation probably to the board sometime in second quarter, and then start to build the capability. What we are doing, and this is important, and it was mentioned in today's press release, is we're seriously investing in best-in-class PhD scientists. And we've just hired 2 phenomenal PhD scientists. If you guys are watching, if you ladies are watching, I'm referring to you. Amazing experience, amazing education. One of them is a Harvard PhD in biology. So we have a team that is just so super impressive, and they're a bit shy of the camera. I think, Justin, we've got to figure out a way in the future just to bring that core team, specifically the senior people, to the camera, so people can see, like, these are the people that are really making the magic every single day and unlocking the secrets of cellular plant biology. And frankly, I have the easy job. In taking just the groundbreaking historical milestones that they're hitting every single day and bringing it to market. In fact, that's the easy part compared to the biology.
I'm smiling because as long as they know how to log in, I'll invite them. Second half to that question is, can you comment on when you might be able to publicly share the CBD THC content of the different strains?
Look, as I said before, this team is like super focused on this. Because we have something that's unique and different to everybody out there, we have to get the IP strategy right. We're making great progress every day. And, I don't want to put a line in the sand, but what I will commit to is that I want to get it done as soon as possible, because the sooner I get it done, it actually will be a lot easier for us in many ways to move forward and just, fully operationalize the strategy and then start to execute it, because that's so important. The IP piece in getting right, it's like the crown jewels of a biotech company. And when you have we believe we have unique composition. With that unique composition, you're likely to have unique utility. And so we got to just wrap all of that and then get the IP strategy right so that it remains IP. And as shareholder partners, I would just say, like, the patience will pay off. Patience will pay off.
Okay, and then can I do 2 more questions?
Yeah, sure.
I'm
good. Look, we only lost 5 people. I'm watching it, so I'm happy to keep on answering questions. Like, let's get through it, because it actually reduces the workload for us in responding, in email, because I know you're very diligent on this.
Yeah, so, actually, good. So just to be clear to everyone, I'm Justin Meeklum, in Investor Relations and Communications. Ilan Sobel is the CEO, fearless and inimitable. We did have to log in under each other's profile, so if people are confused, yes, yeah. I'm Justin at bioharvest.com. A lot of questions about, you touched on the different B2B and product potential applications. People ask all the time, and I've got a bunch of questions here. You're growing trichomes, full spectrum. Where would if you're looking for a distinct isolate or a component of it, where is that purification, or where would that process be expected to happen?
That can happen downstream, but like, frankly, you lose the magic of our product, because, like I said earlier in the first few charts, we're all about producing full spectrum active ingredients. We do it in Vinia, and that's what makes Vinia so amazing. It's not just the parseed resveratrol. It's the interaction between the parseed resveratrol and all the other polyphenols that are working together. I can tell you now, if I took out those other polyphenols, it wouldn't have the impact. They all work together. And it's the same thing in the cannabis space. You speak to anybody out there, you speak to any user, the importance of having the full spectrum of cannabinoids, it's the game changer in really, driving a quantum leap in the overall impact. So, I'm not so excited about doing isolates. You can go to frankly, you can go to the biosynthesis guys. You want CBG and just CBG, and you want to use it as a marketing gimmick and to put it in, like, go for it. That's okay. Like, that's not for us. Again, we're a purpose-driven company. We focus on human utility value. We know, and everything that you see, whether it's in cannabis, whether it's in polyphenols, whether it's in psychedelics, whether, literally anywhere you look, it's a full spectrum effect that always wins. So that's what we're focused on.
And then how do we respond to people asking us about potentially using our platform to grow their specific strains?
So, I've been responding on that a lot, because obviously there's a lot of interest. And, ultimately, it first starts with the vision. The vision is all about purpose, about driving human utility value. That's where it starts. In doing that, you obviously need to make sure you're carrying the right strains. Now, before you get there, I'm thinking about the strains. You can find best-in-class strains out there. What's critical for us first is the partnership model. As we think through our route to market, that's going to allow us to bring the power of our cannabis to as many people as possible, right? With that partnership model, then you start to kind of think through the strains, because the strains is not a driver. There are some people out there, frankly, that there's a lot of research right now where you're seeing strains being done in vitro testing on cells. That's a starting point, but until you actually test it on people, it's a huge leap from a cell to actually real people. If there are strains out there that we believe are going to drive better human utility value, I'm happy to partner. I'm happy to partner with people. I will tell you for sure that we'll produce the most consistent, clean cannabis, that if that strain is a good strain, it's gonna be a knockout through our system. So we'll kind of figure that out. We're happy with what we have right now. And as we continue to scale and build the right partnerships and finalize our focus, then we'll start to line up the right strains. whether it's partnerships that we need to do from that, because there are quite a few research facilities that are focusing on strains focused on certain indications. But in a lot of those cases, when you and I've had a number of those dialogues, you really, in vitro is not good enough. It's got to be all the way through to actual clinicals when you start to realize the power of a strain. So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But there are many facilities out there, many research facilities, many universities that are saying, oh, we have this strain and we think it's better for this. And so, it's not like there's a supply issue in that space.
But please contact us if people are interested, right?
And I would say is, in vitro is a start, but as you move forward to clinicals, then it gets really interesting.
Okay, and then last question. I think we've covered generally everyone's. I will go through after the session, and we will specifically respond to everybody. Last one. Who do you see as your biggest competitors from a technology platform perspective?
You can see I'm like pausing to think about that, because I don't think about that every day. It's not like on my PowerPoint presentation or on my mind all the time. Growing plant cell tissue growth in a petri dish is one thing. Being able to do it at an industrial scale that we know how to do it is another thing. It's like separates like the, let's call it the, I don't know, like the local basketball, 40 plus players on a Sunday to the NBA players. It's a big stretch. And there's very few companies out there that have had the success in the scaling. And when they've had the success, they're all, and talking about a handful. And when you look at their success, they've been focused on specific areas. Everyone's kind of focused on their niches, on their verticals, because it's so hard. It's so difficult to do. So, I can't tell you that I look at these guys or I look at these guys. I'm focused on what we're doing. I'm focused on driving our scaling. I'm focused on bringing disruptive innovation to the verticals that we're in today, and then looking at how we do that in other verticals where no one else is playing. That's what's driving me. I'm not losing focus on looking right, looking left, because my runway is big enough. I don't need to extend my runway. So that's kind of, and it's honestly from my heart, my answer.
Excellent. Well, please, maybe just your last words, Ilan. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. Very energetic question session. And
I want to share one last perspective with people here, because I'm hopeful that we have a lot of new potential investors here, people that are considering being our investor partners. And I would just say to you, whether you decide to invest in Bioharvest or other companies, and I had this conversation with my kids. I have a 16-year-old, is talking to me about EFTs, and literally, I'm trying to educate them about investing, and my 13-year-old, and I said this, and I talked to them about the fact, I said, listen, boys, I said, whatever you do, and I'll share this similarly with everybody here, make sure you're investing in something, in a company that is purpose-driven, that you are passionate about, that you believe this company is solving an unmet need today that is very, very critical for civilization. It's very, very critical for us, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's the environment, whatever, is really close to your heart. And make sure that it's a company that you want to be a partner of on a long journey. And if you do that, you're going to make smart investment decisions, because normally when people invest in something that they're passionate about and has purpose, they'll spend a lot of time researching. They'll look at the company, they'll look at the background, they'll look at the CEO, they'll look at the leadership team, they'll look at their ability to execute, they'll look at how they are with regulators, they'll look at how they are from core values around ESG. And ESG is not just about sustainability. The E is for environment, the S is social, right? And the G is governance. You need companies that value diversity, value the power of female leadership, value, the importance of being good global citizens, and are solving problems that are significant problems for the world. And, we see ourselves in that space. We're a purpose-driven company. That's what gets, us up every single day. And, in our case, health and wellness has never been a greater need for the world. Right now here in Israel, we're dealing with the highest rate of COVID infection in the world, even though we've been quite advanced, so it's on the mind of every single person all around us. And, people are starting to realize the value of your health. So, that's where our purpose and our energy is focused. And that's the photosynthesis that keeps our energy going. So I would just say to you, whether Bioharvest is the right company for you or not, focus on companies that their company purpose matches with your value system and your passion. Because if you do that, you're much more likely to have success and to enjoy the journey. That's all from me tonight, Justin.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I will have this recording published hopefully within the next hour and a half with rendering. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and thanks for all staying with me along the journey, and thank you for the emojis, right? Emojis, yeah. Okay. Sure. Thank you for the emojis. It's very helpful. I appreciate it.